Traditionally, European colonial powers used the idea of Orientalism as a way of depicting the East as being mystic, exotic, and overall as a land of mystery. This construction ultimately served as a way for the West to distinguish between themselves and the other, in a way that generally contrasts the idea of being civilized versus uncivilized. Historically, Orientalism was founded on the imaginations of European colonial powers that viewed the Asian subalterns of their states as in need of such civilizing, and such Orientalism even came to be associated with the physical characteristics of Asians. Today, we continue to observe modern Orientalism in action, whether it be through character interaction or certain filters in movies, politics in the media, or simply through the day-to-day interactions that Asian Americans experience. However, a new method of depiction of Asian Americans has simultaneously taken form and been on the rise: Techno-Orientalism, the iteration of Orientalism that presents Asians as threateningly, technologically futuristic, unrelatable, and overall robotic. As all Orientalism, Techno-Orientalism and its dystopian nature has become a key component of films and media surrounding Asians. Orientalism was originally covered in detail by Edward Said in his book Orientalism, to describe the fictional and imagined notions of peoples of the Middle East, North Africa, and Asia as primitive, fanatic, violent, and overall inferior to those of the Western world. Although depictions of the Arab world remain distinct from those of Asian Americans, films like The Thief of Baghdad highlight many of the points brought up by Said about Oriental mysticism images. In The Mask of Fu Manchu, Dr. Fu Manchu is depicted as a wicked and dangerous Oriental threat, corroborated by the film's over-the-top exoticism, a stark contrast to the Westerners, in the film, of course, being the heroes.
Blood, my own blood, the organs of different reptiles, and mixed with the magic brew of the sacred 7 herbs, will temporarily change you into the living instrument of my will. You will do as I command.
And in My Geisha, we see Asians being depicted using the classic dragon lady Oriental look, one that has come to be associated with all of the danger and, of course, exoticism of the mysterious East.
As film has progressed beyond the black and white era, Orientalism has found new ways to progress as well. In recent years, some films that highlight these new Orientalist techniques are American Sniper, Iron Man, and Eat, Pray, Love. These films have adapted to the modern era and often send these subtle Orientalist messages through the visual medium, whether it be through the coloring, the location, the characters, or how the characters interact with each other and their environment. The infamous yellow filter has become a central part of Orientalist movies. The intense yellow coloring of films when developing nations are shown is meant to evoke associations between those nations and poverty, lawlessness, and a lack of advancement, which is in the spirit of Orientalism, as its purpose is to display the East as backwards. This is in opposition to the blue color filter, which is meant to show advancement and futurism. Action films in particular are major perpetrators of this, like the aforementioned American Sniper. It also sends Orientalist messages through its characters. Every non-white character in the film either slots into the innocent victim who must be protected by the white savior, or the perilous villain who the white savior must defeat. These characters lack dimensionality as they exist in a dichotomy in an amoral world according to the gaze of the filmmaker. The inability for these characters to be anything but poor victims or dangerous villains aligns with Orientalist attitudes which are intent on othering and stripping characters of their humanity. This video offers a brief insight into common modern Orientalist tropes.
Welcome, my friend.
A sizable portion of the first Iron Man film is set in Afghanistan when Tony Stark travels to the Kunar province of Afghanistan bordering Pakistan. This province contains mountains, valleys, and rivers and is very lush and green. But in Iron Man, Kunar is inexplicably a desert land, devoid of color, with rebels waiting in cavernous hideouts, ready to strike. This change is meant to portray the land and subsequently the people as lacking humanity and being barbaric. Action films aren't the only films guilty of these misrepresentations, though. Romance films like Eat, Pray, Love have contributed particularly to gendered Orientalist views as well. The film follows Liz Gilbert as she travels through Italy, India, and Indonesia. In both India and Indonesia, she meets a woman who has been dealt a bad hand by her overly traditional society. In India, she meets a young woman who is being forced into a marriage because it is supposedly custom. In Indonesia, she meets a single divorcee who has been all but outcasted by society for her divorce status. Liz pities both of these women for their entrapment within these backwards, overly traditional societies. This element was conspicuously missing from her travels to Italy, though. All of these distortions of what the East is really like are meant to portray Asian and Asian Americans as backwards.
Later on in the film, ideas about magic are introduced as Indiana interacts with Indian villagers and a dangerous cult that worships uses magical objects, while ideas about hedonism are explored in the opulent palace of the Maharaja, and ideas about barbarism are explored in the outrageous meals served to the guests of the palace, and in the violence and cold.
Orientalism is a result of U.S. diplomatic relations with Asia. So as previously stated, Asia was seen as a place of backwards mysticism and foreign curiosities. But as technology advances and people integrate it into their daily lives, it has a significant impact on the diplomatic relations between the countries that produce these technologies and the countries that consume them. In the 21st century, East Asian countries have been some of the first to embrace the latest cutting-edge technology, and places like Taiwan have become a tech hub by being the world's leading semiconductor manufacturer, and Japan and South Korea are known for their adoption of an almost fully automated way of life, which led Western audiences to view these East Asian societies as futuristic utopias, and the people as emotionless and efficient robots. So, a new phrase is used to reflect this new view of East Asia, techno-Orientalism, a term coined by David Morley and Kevin Robbins in Spaces of Identity. This concept of techno-Orientalism can already be seen in movies such as Blade Runner 2049, a dystopian science fiction movie. In it, Ryan Gosling's character hunts down and retires rogue bioengineered humans called replicants, and all of this is set in a cyberpunk-esque Asian city. Another science fiction movie, After Yang, shows a family buying a second-hand humanoid robot Yang to act as a caregiver for the family's adopted daughter Mika and to help her connect with her Chinese heritage. And in the award-winning film Ex Machina, Sonoya Mizuno plays a robot servant to tech CEO Nathan Bateman. Or in Cloud Atlas, another science fiction movie that is partly set in a futuristic, uber-capitalistic version of South Korea, the main characters are introduced to the city by Somi 451, a human clone, and her purpose is to serve the consumers of this extremely capitalistic society. All of these films and more love to use East Asia as a backdrop for a doomed dystopian future, and East Asians as the ushers to this future. This sends a subliminal message to the audience that Asians are a threat to Western societies via a technological takeover, and this fear has already been manifested in real life and can be seen in the US government's ban on Chinese-made tech products such as the social media app TikTok and the smartphones from the tech giant Huawei. So these portrayals of East Asian people and their societies have serious implications on the Asian diaspora living in places where Asian hate crimes are on the rise. Therefore, it is important to challenge techno-Orientalism as technology becomes growingly intertwined in our lives.